transforming lives as we love, serve, and remember who we are.
One heart, one mind,
one soul at a time.
Hello and welcome to the SLC Sunday Experience. I'm Paula Mandella and this is Soul Light Connection, and we want you to know you're in the right place at the right time. Right, Ann?
That's right, just where you are meant to be. And we want you to sing along with us because we know and you know your soul is welcome here. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. In the right place, I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome. Yeah, your soul is welcome. Our soul is welcome here. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome. Oh, my soul is welcome. Oh, my soul is welcome. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome. I'm getting the message. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome here. Put your hands together. My soul is welcome here. Tell them about it, Larry. My soul is welcome here. 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 It is welcome here. My soul is welcome. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome
Good morning, and welcome to the Spiritual Life Center Easter Experience that we're bringing to you wherever you might be on the planet today. And we're grateful for your presence as we remind one another we are always interconnected. We are always one in the Spirit, and we all have the power within to resurrect. You know, there are folks across the planet who view our services, and each week I acknowledge at least one place outside the United States where people tune into our program. And so today, I'd like to acknowledge our friends in New Zealand. Thank you for connecting with us, and know that you are blessed and a magnificent blessing to this entire planet. At this time, let's take a few moments to commune with this presence of pure spirit in prayer, knowing that prayer is the language of spirit. And we affirm our realization of that oneness with one another right now. Divine presence, we recognize that we come from this one source that is known by so many different names. We may call it God, the force, the source of everything, our divinity, closer than breathing, nearer than our neck vein. Regardless of what we call it forth as the activity of our awareness. And as we do that, then we begin to amplify and radiate the qualities of the Spirit of the living God, starting with love, moving to peace and wholeness and oneness and vitality and vigor and awe and wonder. We become the expressions of all of those things in every thought we have, every word we speak, and every action that we take, so that we say without a doubt, when you see me, you see the presence that sent me. So it is, and so we let it be. For that, we're grateful and we're thankful. Our mission here at Spiritual Life Center is this: we transform lives as we love, serve, and remember. And we do so by doing the best we can to bring these spiritual principles to life. God is absolute good and everywhere present. People are inherently good. Thoughts create our experiences. Prayer and meditation are how we connect with God. We must take action.
If you are having a birthday, this song goes out to you. We want to wish you a very special SLC happy birthday. So everybody, join in and sing along. You ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Hi, I'm Reverend Deborah Phillips, and here's what's happening at SLC. Discovering Spirit Within You this week is a nod to Easter and other spring celebrations. I offer insights into how resurrection is personal, accessible, and active in our everyday lives and can help us to rise in consciousness to remember who we are. A world healing meditation rounds out this episode. Discovering Spirit Within premieres each Wednesday on your favorite podcast app. Now, over the past few weeks, we have been talking about two great opportunities for spiritual growth that are coming your way, and this week is the week. This Tuesday at 6:30 p.m., you can join Sherry Rain for Harnessing the Power of Prayer, a prayer class that can be taken for personal growth or as a foundational requirement for becoming a new prayer chaplain. Either way, this is a wonderful way to expand your own prayer practice. This 4-part class runs from April 6th to April 27th. You have the option of attending in person or via Zoom. Please register for this class on our website. The other event is Clear Your Clutter, Change Your Life with Karen Drucker. This Saturday, April 10th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., Karen will lovingly help you discover places where you may be stuck in your life. This is a Zoom class, which has the advantage of allowing for breaks where you go off screen and clear clutter in real time. Register for this class today to share love, humor, and spiritual insights with Karen and each other. Each month, we support a different community giving partner. Pam Logan is with us to introduce our April recipient.
Hi, I'm Pam Logan. I'm filling in for Carrie Freeman, who nominated Sacramento's Family Justice Center for our community giving this April. Carrie, along with several other SLC members, have long been supporters of the Family Justice Center for their incredible work in assisting victims of domestic violence, including elder abuse, human trafficking, sexual abuse, and child abuse. This past year has been challenging for all of us, but incredibly so for agencies dealing with these issues. So I'm very pleased to introduce Reverend Faith Whitmore. Faith has and continues to wear many hats in the Sacramento region through her ministry, the Francis House, and as a director for one of our congressional members. She is passionate in all she does, especially now in her role as Chief Executive Officer for the Family Justice Center. Please welcome Faith Whitmore.
Hi, I'm Faith Whitmore. I'm the CEO of the Sacramento Regional Family Justice Center, and I'm so grateful to be back here with the Spiritual Life Center on this beautiful Easter Sunday to thank you once again for your generosity and contributing to the work that we do at the Family Justice Center. Work with domestic violence victims and elder abuse primarily. And during this past year, our numbers have spiked, as you can imagine, as people had to shelter in place, sometimes with their abusers. So it means so much to be able to support the work with crisis intervention and case management and legal services, all to help get these victims from a place of trauma and danger to one of safety and hope. So we were here last year. We're back again this year because of your generosity, and it means the world to us. So thank you so much. If any of you are interested in volunteer opportunities, we have those, although they've been limited and are limited right now due to the pandemic. But I can certainly get information to those of you who would like it. So again, for who you are and for all you do and for the large hearts, the big hearts, and all you give to this community and to us, thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Faith. We are honored to contribute to your journey. We love to greet our newcomers. And while we cannot greet you in person, we want you to know that we are very happy that you are with us today as you walk your unique path. You can learn more about us by going to slcworld.org/connect. And when you fill out the online card, you can choose to receive our weekly message, find opportunities for connecting with our prayer chaplains and online small groups. And you can also ask to be notified of greater ways to connect with us as we expand our online community. And speaking of connecting, you can find all details for the happenings at SLC by simply going to our website, slcworld.org. Thank you for joining us today. We are honored to be with you in spirit.
Christ the Lord is risen today. Hallelujah. Sons of men
At Spiritual Life Center, we affirm there is power in the spoken word. If it feels comfortable for you, I invite you to speak aloud our vision statement. Spiritual Life Center is a loving, vibrant family that welcomes home all people and accepts everyone, no exceptions. Weaving ancient spiritual traditions with emerging wisdom, we cultivate a spiritual deepening with the divine, each other, and our planet.
As we move into this time of inner quiet, take a deep breath and exhale. Sink into your chair. Drop your shoulders. Relax your eyelids. And breathe naturally. Notice how with each breath your thoughts float up and wander. Notice how you let go, how you drift into a light daydream. You stand at the base of a small hill about an hour before dawn. The full moon sits low on the horizon, but there is still enough light that you can see a trail gently winding upward. You decide to walk up the hill to watch the sun rise. The night is quiet and peaceful as you ascend. It takes about 15 minutes for you to walk the first section of the trail. And then here is a small shrine containing one candle. A small sign says, "When you light me, your concerns will clear away." As you light the candles, something in your heart lifts. A small bell rings. The sky becomes a little lighter. Clouds take on color with the first hint of dawn. Your step is easier as you continue along the trail for about another 15 minutes, until yet another shrine comes into view. Here sit 2 candles, and the sign says, "When you light us, your heart will lift higher still." As you light the candles, your heart fills with love. Soft bells ring. The sky changes, turning red with early light. You almost float for the next 15 minutes until the third shrine comes into view. And here there are 3 candles. And the sign says, "Light us. You will rise to the heights of heaven." As you light each candle, your heart expands and fills with hope. Soft bells ring. The sky begins to turn pink and gold. You walk the next quarter hour with a heart filled with love and hope. As you crest the hill, the sun bursts into the sky. You and the sun have risen together. Glorious light plays across the sky. It streams into your center. Pure joy pulses through your body and soul. The bells ring. Take a moment now as the inner you rises and dances in this light, in this joy, in the silence. And you express gratitude for the joy of rising with the sun. Take a breath now as we return to our bodies and receive this blessing. Oh, my beloved, there is ever hope. There is ever joy. There is ever love. There is ever light. No matter the circumstances, the light in you will always rise and carry you up with it. You will rise to the highest of heights because you are an eternal being made of love, light, and joy. Remember this always.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the sea, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the world.
The morning has broken. And know it's morning even if you get this message at some other time of the day. Because morning is always happening whenever there is a new beginning. Today is a magnificent celebration of new beginnings. We're commemorating Easter. We're commemorating new life. You know, as I was reflecting on the Easter resurrection story, I thought about the journey we've all been on the past year or so as a result of the pandemic. I think many of us have felt our own sense of crucifixion on some level or another, unless you've been absolutely removed from the world. But I'm sure some of us have been feeling it directly, others indirectly. Some may just been feeling a small sense of crucifixion psychologically. You know, personally, I know that 2 of my colleagues transitioned as a result of COVID. 2 of my brothers were infected to lesser to greater degrees. And a very close friend of mine who I talked to recently said he was in ICU for 2 weeks and he thought he wasn't going to make it. He did, and he said he had a whole new perspective on life. He wasn't quite sure what that meant. Yet others may have been affected by business losses and maybe not connecting with their friends or relatives, or their travel was restricted. They didn't go on vacations that they had planned, or maybe they just experienced some sort of psychic angst from time to time over this past year. But here's the thing about the resurrection journey. Just as we think that life has slammed the door on us, just at that moment, we can suddenly discover a greater good has been waiting for us. And that some of the greatest accomplishments sprout from the most difficult challenges that we have in life. I recall the story of a football player. He was really very good. In fact, I think he was a high school All-American. And he was into his last season in his senior year, and he got into a car accident and unfortunately was paralyzed from the waist down. And he was in the hospital, and his coach came to see him. You know, some of his teammates came to see him, and they were commiserating and saying, maybe we need to pray. And, you know, they just kind of had an attitude of defeatism and fear and doubt and worry. And that star player who was paralyzed from the waist down said, you know, don't feel sorry for me. Yes, I have an accident. Yes, I have he called it an illness, but I'm not dead. There's still a lot of life for me to live. He had a tremendous attitude. He said, give me some information because I want to know something about this wheelchair Olympics someone's been telling me about. To make a long story short, he worked really hard and became a gold medalist in one of the events in the World Chair Olympics. You know, he had his version of a resurrection from what we might consider an extreme crucifixion experience for someone that young and so talented and have so much of a future ahead of him. And not everyone's going to have such a story. But we all have our own unique crucifixion experiences from time to time that we can resurrect from. So I want to ask you today, are you ready for your resurrection? Are you ready for your resurrection? Now, I can't hear you, but I can feel the energy of your yes. You know, it's a spiritual journey of ascension, which we've been spiritualizing every aspect of our life and see that every step that we go through in life, we look at through a spiritual lens, a spiritual perspective. And part of this journey involves breaking up of the old limited states of mind in order to prepare us for the new inspiration and new life. And we allow this inspiration and life to flow through our awareness. The Easter story, of course, is a crucial stage of this journey. Easter represents that moment in our lives when it's revealed to us that we are spirit or consciousness with bodies, rather than bodies with consciousness. Easter symbolizes the breakthrough in which we are free from death. We're free from material limitation. We're free from our self-imposed prisons. Easter proves that consciousness is the cause. Consciousness is the maintainer. Consciousness is the sustainer of our lives and life itself. It's a call to all of us to see beyond the rim of our opinion and to understand that we can look to the master teacher, Jesus the Christ, the great example, the great master. He was a shining model of our infinite possibilities. And we look to him to see how he allowed for the entire universe, the cosmos, to be conscious as him. So this time of the year, we ask, what did he do? What does the Easter story have to tell us what we must do to experience our own personal resurrections? Well, first of all, Jesus surrendered all. He surrendered all. We know that song, I surrender all. So that his small identity, the small self, could yield and reveal the divine identity that's within each and every one of us. Like I said, he's the great example and still is, and not the great exception. He was exceptional because he exemplified the rule, the divine possibility that we all have. With the reason that he said, greater things than I, you shall do. So this resurrection story, this resurrection of life, this rising up, this great expansion of consciousness has a particular pattern to it when we look at the story closely. And we can just understand that pattern, then we can decode it and begin to remain conscious through all the experiences that we're going through in that pattern. And when we do, then our life will rise and shine and flow with power, will flow with the presence, will flow with the love of God itself. And we will sing our own version of the morning has broken. Understand this pattern is clearly defined in the Easter story, and it begins with a betrayal of some kind. There is always the Judas factor within our circumstances. There's always the Judas factor in our situations. And I'm sure most of us have experienced that Judas kiss where sometime or another in our life we've been betrayed by life. Maybe a plan did not work out the way that we had counted on it to work out. Maybe somebody that you loved left you, or you left somebody and that you thought you loved. Or you were released from a job or a business venture did not work out for you. Maybe the body temple has failed you and somebody may have died that you did not want to die at that particular time. And you said, oh my God, why have you done this to me? Somewhere along the line in the human experience, we've all experienced a betrayal. Or at least a seeming betrayal. But the betrayal itself lies within it, the resurrecting power of the force of God, of the presence. You know, when Jesus Christ was kissed by Judas, which was a necessary element in the ultimate drama of resurrection, Jesus said, do what you have to do, but do it quickly, because I got a resurrection to get to. When we understand who and what we are, when that stuff seems to be coming down on us, when we have our own stuff, pressures on our life, we can say, do what you have to do, but do it quickly because I've got some growing to do. I've got some expanding of my consciousness to do. There's a power within me that's not going to be activated. It's going to be latent until I need it. When all seems lost and seems to be breaking loose during this time of betrayal, it is in that moment when we're under that crisis, when our attention becomes very focused and that latent something can be kicked into high gear. And we look back over our life and we say, if that had not happened, I would not be the individual or the person I am today. You know, when we come to Easter, I always remember my own crucifixion story, my own crucifixion experience. And, You know, many of you heard me talk about how I went through some very riotous living. I didn't really see myself as a worthy individual, and my life collapsed despite having everything in life. And then eventually I had nothing. And the only thing that was left was me and the presence. And at that moment, I thought my life was over. I was ready for it to be over. It was over as I thought it was. But then I was pushed to engage in more self-reflection, self-examination that led me to a journey of spiritual exploration, to become a minister, to do what I'm doing here today. There was a greater expression of life waiting to get my attention. God, or the force, was saying to me in so many words, hey, I'll be here when he gets here. He just has to get himself together. All of that forced me to move to a state of self-forgiveness and love. And that was a precondition for me to be moved and catapulted to some higher purpose. Out of the seeming darkness, out of the seeming betrayal, came the light of a greater purpose and understanding for my own personal life. I say that to say that whatever may be happening to us or to you individually, or seems to be happening to you, know that it's here for you to go beyond yourself, to go beyond your boundary, to go beyond what you have ever known before in and as your life. Know that whatever situation it is, it's calling for the highest and best within you to shine and ever shine. So when we begin to see any seeming betrayal from that vantage point, and we begin to practice that way of being in the world, we move from being a victim to a victor to a vessel of the Spirit of God. Everybody gets kissed by Judas. Everybody gets kissed in some way, shape, or form. And we realize that Jesus was the ultimate example of what not can happen to us. That is, it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to what happens to us. So he taught, in order to activate that regenerating power within our soul that allows for that magnificent resurrection of our being, forgiveness is the key. You know, someone told me that forgiveness means giving up hope for a better past. Giving up hope for a better past. Because, you know, a victim has an unforgiveness story. A victim will tell you who did it to them, how many times, how long, how abused they were. What, you know, they went on to say, you know, sometimes you want to say when you keep hearing the story over and over again, as I think about each Easter, please get off the cross. Somebody else needs the wood. Because resurrection is built on a consciousness of forgiveness. Only then can we see the gift in the seeming betrayal. When life or people or situations betray the pictures that we have in our mind or how things could be or should be. You know, that's why Jesus said, forgive it 70 times 7. He meant that as a way of life. He did not mean, okay, let me start counting 70 times 7, figuring out how many times I have to forgive before I can just hold resentment against that person. He probably knew people at that time around him couldn't count up that high, and it was an impossible task for them to say, okay, 70 times 7, 1, 2, 3. No, he wasn't talking about that. He was basically saying you have to make forgiveness a way of life until just so that it can build in your soul a vibration of not holding on to something that is not helping you. You know, when he was on the cross, he said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. They don't know what they're doing. They're operating from a certain state of consciousness. They think they know what they're doing, but they're being motivated by an invisible attractor fields that are expressing through them. It was not really them. It was not their true spiritual self. It's just the particular energy field and consciousness that was speaking through them at that time. They were just doing what they were doing because that's who they thought they were in that particular moment. They had forgotten their true identity. And if you and I begin to understand that, then you can understand how wonderful it is to forgive, to release the resentment, to release any animosity, to release any angst around a particular story of whatever has happened to you or seemingly happened to you. Because then you can set yourself free. So forgive them, for they know not what they do. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, many of you, I'm sure. Many of you developed and unfolded in a wonderful way and have gone back to make amends to other people that you have transgressed. And you may say to people sometimes, you know, I'm really sorry for what I did. But that wasn't me. And they look closely at you and they say, oh no, that was you. That was you, all right. And you say, no, that wasn't me. I mean, I was caught by something. I was ignorant. I just didn't know. Something was moving through me that wasn't the real me. Something was running me. And when we begin to see life like that things are running people, then it becomes easier to forgive and release that energy so that we can be free. And then we keep looking at the resurrection story and its pattern. And we see another trait that Jesus anchored, and that his attention was always in the now moment. This was exemplified by him not falling into the temptation to live in the past or in the future, as symbolized by the two thieves. One was on the right of him, one was on the left of him. And one represented the past, one represented the future. And the thief representing the past said to Jesus, Jesus, I know what I've done. He was living in the past. I don't know why you're here, but I know why I've done. And the other thief said, what's going to happen when this is over? Where are we going? So one was worried about the future and the other was anchored in the past. And Jesus said, today thou shalt be with me in paradise. He was not tempted to go in the past or the future. He was in the nowness of the moment, and he was free. Please understand that a lot of suffering comes from the fact of being anchored in the past or projecting some worry from the past into the future. And what happens is that you and I may have just created a story that has nothing to do with the nowness of the moment. Oftentimes your story about the past is a projection into the future, and you tell that story over and over and over again. It may not be you, maybe other people, that identify themselves as the story. And they won't let the story go, and they're getting a payoff from the story. So we say things like, let me tell you about my story. And then we act it out. And we won't even let a triumph happen, because if you let a triumph happen, you know what we have to do? We have to get rid of the story. And you know exactly what the next year is going to be like, because it's going to be just like this year. Hopefully that's nothing like that for us in the future, nothing like this past year. Because the story that you're telling is not going to serve us. That story, it may have a different cast. It may be in a different locale. You may have a change in sets. You may have a change in actors, but it's the same story. It's the same script. In the Easter story, after the resurrection, Jesus came back. And the disciples saw him. They were a little nervous about this. And Jesus said, I'm here. It's really me. Look at my scars. I'm eating food. This is a real body. But you notice he did not go over the crucifixion story at all. He did not say, shh, did you see what they did to me, man? Do you know what Judas said about me? Do you know that Peter denied me? He denied me 3 times. They abandoned me, man. They made me put on this cross, and I had to carry the cross, and it was heavy. He did not do that. He gave everyone their charge, their walking papers, and said, go forth and heal all nations. His attention was on the nowness of this moment. He released the story. He heard the God story. And that God story applies to all of us that says, you are my beloved in whom I am well pleased. And then something else happens. We begin to understand and grasp the final part of the pattern of spiritual resurrection. We hear, we understand the meaning of Jesus when he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. You and I begin to grasp that level of surrender. First of all, he said, Father, because that was the language that they spoke at that time. That's what the people called God. And secondly, there was such an intimate connection. There was such a connectedness between them and the presence of God. And he said, into thy hands I commend my spirit. There was absolute trust. When he's saying in this very moment for us, commend our spirit, because he knew that the very moment you want God consciousness, in that very moment you will the will of God to be done in your life. In that very moment, what you want is God more than any change in the external circumstances. And when you do, you have released the blockages, the resistances, and you begin to have the realization of your oneness with the presence of God, and it will express itself in terms of a resurrection. It will express itself in creativity. Very often, you and I may want something else more than we want God consciousness. You know, recall a man who was highly spiritual. I guess you could even call him a guru of sorts. He helped a lot of people, but at this moment he had a very serious disease, an illness that he could not get over. And he went to some healers, and a number of people kept doing things for him, treating for him, but he could not rise above the illness that he had. So one day he said, basically, I don't care if I never get rid of this illness. I want God more than anything. And in that moment, his illness disappeared because the resistance disappeared. He tried to get health more than he wanted God consciousness. That's what he's doing up until that moment. So when you and I say, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit, what we're saying, I want God conscious more than I want anything else. And because God is life. And when we give up resistance, life takes over. Our resurrection begins to happen. A new birth takes over. Renewal springs up for us. Well, as I bring this Easter message to a close, or as they say in the old school, bring it on home. James, bring it on home. We're reminded that the Easter story is a story of resurrection. It reminds us there is something within all of us that is made in the image and likeness and out of God itself. Our intention, our hunger and thirst, our prayer life is the precondition for that self-actualizing to take place, to be full bloom in and as our life. And understand we alone can't make it happen, but we can create the conditions to make it welcome. As we look at our collective world and see what's going on, we see the experience that seemingly are betraying what we know life ought to be. Life ought to be about peace and love and harmony and wholeness. Yet we see crucifixion experiences of maybe a pandemic. We see mass shootings. We see abuse and neglect of other people. Even we look around the world wherever there's genocide wiping out whole generations and countries. There's the belief in separation that's playing out in this country and around the world where we're not realizing that we're all on the same boat. And sometimes it makes you want to just check out, just tune out, or just indulge the belief that it's beyond hope. And somehow we'll never get better. But understand, seeming betrayals are opportunities to go beyond our self-imposed limitations and allow the limitless nature of God to resurrect our life. God transforms our world a little at a time by means of us. As the song goes, God needs us to shine God's light. And when we allow light to shine, we will rise above any crucifixion experience. And we will rise, and we will rise, but we must surrender. And when you and I surrender all, we let go. We let God. And the will of God is done in and as our life. And you'll do the same thing like the grass does. You know, when the grass is covered by cement, it does not have the faculty to create excuses. It just grows through the cracks. Sometimes it grows through the cement itself. It does not say, oh, you know how long the cement's been on top of me? You don't know who put it there. I can tell you who put it there. You know, they put it there and now it's so thick. It's 5 inches thick. I don't know what I'm going to do. But understand that inner light, that inner life inside the grass just grows on anyway. There is a spiritual resurrection. There is the Easter of your life that is always available. There's always a new morning dawning for us. Well, I can't leave this service without saying this on Easter Day. It's kind of part of my tradition. And it's something that I say is not in the official Bible, it's in the Bible according to Trapp. And according to the Bible, according to Trapp, that after the authorities thought they had gotten rid of this nuisance of a man called Jesus, Jesus did his thing and he came back. And he said, "Tada." Actually said, "Tada. How you like me now?" And he clicked up and he said, "I'm free, baby. I'm free. You be free. It's Easter time. Get ready for your resurrection." Peace and blessings to you. Thank you for being part of our Easter Sunday service today, in which we address how to apply the elements and the steps of the story to resurrect and rebirth any area of our life. Next Sunday, I start a new series with the theme, Take Back Your Future. And my talk is entitled, Your Self-Image Matters. And remember to join us for a virtual courtyard chat at 10:15 Pacific Standard Time on Zoom. The link to the spiritual courtyard is in the description. So let's meet there and we'll have a brief time to chat. It may be a little bit shorter than normal because we have folks here on the premises. But anyway, right now is your opportunity to help Spiritual Life Center continue to provide these spiritual experiences for you or anyone else that tunes in. And of course, it's not just our Sunday experience, but our weekly podcast, our prayer and meditation classes, as well as other transformational experiences that take place throughout the week. So I invite you to support Spiritual Life Center with your donation and to give what you can. It makes a difference and is highly appreciated. You can give by texting SLC Love to 44321. That's SLC Love to 44321. Or go to our website, slcworld.org, click the Donate tab, and give in other ways, including by mail. And if you find value in our services and want to help spread the word to others, depending upon what platform you are viewing us on, please like, comment, and click subscribe. And more transformation will happen for others as well as our planet. Now with that, let us join in energetically or out loud and say our offertory blessing. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
Inganyama, Nengwenama Bala. Inganyama, Nengwenama Bala. Inganyama, Nengwenama Bala. Inganyama, Nengwenama Bala. Night. And the spirit of life calling, oh, oh, Eo.
Mandella.
Oh, oh, Eo. And a voice with the fear of a child answers, oh, oh, Eo.
Oh, Mandella.
Oh, oh, Eo. Wait, there's no mountain too great.
Hear the words and have faith. Oh,
Oh, oh, Eo. Have faith. Hey la, hey mamela, 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 hey la,
he lives in me.
hey la, hey mamela, hey la,
He watches over
hey la, hey mamela, hey la,
everything we see.
hey la, hey mamela, hey la,
Into the water.
hey la, hey mamela, hey la,
Into the truth.
hey la, hey mamela, hey la.
In your reflection.
Hey la, hey mamela, he lives in you.
He lives in you.
Hey la, hey mamela, hey la,
He lives in me.
hey la, hey mamela, hey la,
He watches over
hey la, hey mamela, hey la,
everything we see.
hey la, hey mamela, hey la,
Into the water.
hey la, hey mamela, hey la,
Into the truth.
hey la, hey mamela, hey la,
In your
hey
reflection.
la, hey mamela, he lives in you. Oh, oh, Eo. Oh, oh, Eo. Wait, 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 wait. There's no mountain too great.
Hear the words and have faith.
Have faith. He lives in you. He lives in me. He watches over everything we see. Into the water, into the truth. In your reflection, he lives in you. He lives in you. He lives in me. He watches over everything we see. Into the water, into the truth. In your reflection, he lives in you. Inganyama, Nengwenama Bala. Inganyama, Nengwenama Bala.
And now, let us join together and say our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, I am, and all is well.